Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into a market that might seem, well, pretty niche at first glance: woodworking glue.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't sound like the most thrilling topic, maybe.
Maybe not initially, but it actually gives some pretty surprising insights into global economic health, different shifts.
Oh, absolutely. It's really a foundational industry when you think about it. Once
Mhm.
you start looking closely at something like woodworking glue,
Yeah.
you see these ripple effects across huge sectors. Construction, furniture making, loads of industrial applications.
Yeah.
It seems like a tiny detail, but it provides this really fascinating lens on much broader economic trends. It really does.
Absolutely. So, our mission today for this deep dive is basically to cut through the data.
Hmm.
We've got comprehensive market research from cognitive market research, and we want to pull out the really important nuggets of knowledge. We'll look at where things stood back in 2021, the path to 2025, and then some, frankly, pretty remarkable projections way out to 2033.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start with the big picture, the global view. In 2021, the market, just over $5 billion,
Huh.
5,053.98 million to be exact.
Solid base.
Then by 2025, that's projected to jump. We're looking at over $7 billion, $7,035.4 million.
Okay, decent growth there.
But here's where it gets really interesting. By 2033, the forecast shows this market hitting a staggering $13.6 billion, $13,633.2 million.
Wow.
So yeah, that's more than double the 2021 size in just over a decade.
And what's really striking about that global growth isn't just the final number, it's the underlying rate. We're talking a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of 8.621% over that whole forecast period.
8.6%. Yeah. And expansion at that kind of pace for a market this size, it really signifies something. It's not just robust health. It's this sustained, like deep-rooted demand. It tells you that the industry is relying on wood, on adhesives. They're innovating. They're expanding rapidly all over the world.
Right. And that global growth, as you'd expect, it isn't spread evenly, is it? Which makes the regional breakdown even more compelling, I think.
Definitely.
The big numbers are one thing, but where exactly is this growth, gluing everything together?
Well, if we look at who's really driving things, it's the Asia-Pacific region.
Yeah.
It leads global growth, and it's actually the largest market by a significant margin.
Okay.
Started at over $2.3 billion back in 2021. That's $2,334.94 million. But it's projected to hit this colossal $6.6 billion by 2033. $6,666.66 million.
Whoa, almost tripling.
Exactly, almost tripling in size. And that's driven by a really strong CAGR,
Yeah.
9.146%.
9.1%.
Yeah, it just shows how much activity is concentrated there, construction, manufacturing.
And if we dig a bit deeper into Asia Pacific, some countries really pop out. China, for instance, its market size nearly triples by 2033, goes from $742 million to over $2.1 billion. That's a 9.337% CAGR.
Huge industrial activity reflected right there.
And Japan, too, showing robust growth, more than doubling its market from $333 million to $877 million, an 8.3% CAGR. Still very strong. But the real standout, for the fastest growth in the region and maybe globally, it looks like India.
India, yes.
Its market for woodworking glue is expected to basically triple, from around $296 million in 2021 to a forecast of nearly $940 million by 2033.
And the CAGR.
A remarkable 10.102%.
10%. That's explosive.
It really is for a foundational product like glue.
That 10% CAGR in India is genuinely astounding. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What specific forces are driving that level of growth?
Right.
Is it just the sheer scale of urbanization, all the new construction, or maybe a booming furniture industry, that rapidly expanding middle class buying more goods?
Could be all of it.
It's fascinating how these numbers, these dry figures, actually paint such a vivid picture of tangible economic transformation happening on the ground.
Absolutely. Okay, so moving on from Asia Pacific's huge numbers, let's turn our attention over to North America.
Okay.
This region also shows pretty significant expansion. Its market grows from just over $1 billion, $1,051.23 million in 2021, to now nearly $2.6 billion, $2,576.68 million, projected by 2033.
Still more than doubling.
Yep, holding a respectable CAGR to 7.755%.
And the U.S. is the big player there, obviously.
Oh, yeah. The United States accounts for the lion's share, goes from $851 million to over $2 billion, $2,059.54 million. That's a 7.633% CAGR.
But what's kind of interesting in North America, while the U.S. market is, dominant in size,
Canada actually boasts a slightly higher CGR.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 8.477%, growing from about $115 million to over $306 million.
Huh. Any thoughts on why?
Well, it does raise a question, doesn't it? Is Canada's growth maybe influenced by a slightly different mix, more timber frame building perhaps, or specific manufacturing shifts happening there compared to the U.S.?
Interesting point.
And Mexico also showing solid growth, projected to more than double its market by 2033, reaching $210 million with a 7.9% CAGR. So, healthy growth across the board there.
Okay. Good context. Now, shifting our gaze across the Atlantic, Europe.
Right. Another major player.
Definitely another major contributor to this global expansion. Its regional sales revenue is also set to more than double, from $934 million in 2021 to over $2.3 billion, $2,358.55 million by 2033.
And the CAGR.
Pretty strong, too, 8.084%, right in line with the other major regions.
And within Europe, again, we see some particularly compelling national trends. Germany really stands out. It has the highest regional CAGR, nearly 8.8%, 8.769%.
Up almost 9% for Germany.
Yeah, growing from $194 million to over $525 million. It suggests something quite specific, perhaps unique in its manufacturing or construction sectors, driving that exceptional demand for adhesives.
Compared to?
Well, contrast that with Russia, for example.
Yeah.
It shows a much more modest growth rate, 6.553% CAGR, reaching about $107 million by 2033.
Okay, quite a difference.
It really begs the question, what specific economic conditions or maybe regulatory environments might be influencing such different trajectories for a fundamental product like glue, even within the same continent?
Fascinating comparison. And the other big European economies?
Also seeing strong, consistent growth. The UK growing to $348 million by 2033. That's an 8.4% CAGR. France to $351 million, 7.6% CAGR. Italy, $229 million. 7.7% CAGR. So broadly speaking, doubling their markets by 2033 as well. Solid performance across Western Europe.
Got it. Okay, so we've covered the big three, Asia-Pacific, North America, Europe. But beyond these major economic blocks, other regions are also adding significantly to this global boom, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can't ignore them. South America, for instance. It's projected to nearly triple its revenue by 2033, from $293 million to over $820 million.
Wow, nearly triple.
Driven by a really robust CAGR 8.945%. And interestingly, Argentina is actually leading the continent in growth rate there, with a 9.544% CAGR.
Higher than Brazil.
Higher CAGR, yes. Though Brazil's market is much larger, contributing substantially, reaching $327 million by 2033 with an 8.8% CAGR. But Argentina's pace is slightly faster.
Okay. And the Middle East? Also
showing impressive numbers. Its market is set to nearly triple by 2033 as well, from $212 million to almost $590 million, $588.547 million.
And the growth driver there?
The UAE leads the regional growth, an outstanding 9.456% CAGR. Lots of construction, lots of development activity reflected there.
Makes sense. And finally, Africa.
Africa's market for woodworking glue is growing steadily too, more than doubling in size over the forecast period, from $227 million to 2021 to over $621 million, $621.812 million by 2033. That's an 8.286% CAGR.
And key countries there?
The report mentions South Africa and Nigeria as regional leaders, driving a good chunk of that growth.
Okay. So we've seen these, really remarkable numbers. Global expansion, these regional shifts, standout countries like India, Germany, UAE. So what does this all mean? Let's try and connect the dots. What's actually driving this widespread fundamental demand for glue across the entire globe?
Yeah, it's the so what question, right? So if we kind of zoom out again and connect these specific numbers back to the broader economic landscape, this remarkable expansion, it's fundamentally being driven by, foundational sectors. It has to be.
Like construction?
Exactly. Think about the sheer scale of global construction, especially that rapid urbanization we see in Asia-Pacific, but also other developing economies. That creates demand for everything: housing, commercial spaces, infrastructure. All potentially using wood and adhesives.
And furniture, too, I guess.
Oh, massively. The relentless global demand for furniture, residential, commercial. It often relies heavily on adhesives in the manufacturing process, for assembly, for laminates. So these figures, these growth rates we've been talking about, they really act as a kind of proxy for tangible activity out there in the world. New buildings literally going up, homes being furnished, industries finding new ways to use wood, maybe more efficiently. It's just a clear signal of underlying economic vitality in those sectors. So I think the core takeaway here is pretty clear. The woodworking glue market, far from being some niche little corner, is actually poised for really exceptional and sustained growth worldwide.
Yeah.
It's like this quiet powerhouse, just humming along, driven by the foundational industries that are literally building and furnishing our world.
A quiet powerhouse. I like that. And this leaves us and leaves you listening with maybe a provocative thought to consider. How might this booming global demand for what seems like a simple product woodworking glue, how might that reflect even deeper shifts in global manufacturing practices, maybe a move towards more efficient, like assembly line construction methods, or even perhaps a growing trend towards more sustainable building materials, more timber-based construction?
That's a great point.
Something to think about. Maybe keep an eye out for these subtle but potentially profound connections in your own world. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something kind of hidden, but it's this quiet force holding so much of our world together: woodworking glue.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, you might just think it's, that sticky stuff that gets on your fingers sometimes.
Happens to the best of us.
Totally. But I promise you this deep dive is going to reveal this whole secret world of innovation, challenges, and some really surprising impacts on your home, maybe even your health. So our mission here is to really pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights from our sources about, the market dynamics and future trends for these essential adhesives.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Indeed. It really is an unsung hero. It plays such a critical role, often completely unseen, in just countless products and structures all around us. Its impact is just way more pervasive than most people probably realize. It's holding everything together, from, say, the beams in your house frame to the tiny details on a hand-carved box.
It's kind of incredible when you stop and think that glue, something we totally take for granted, is actually right at the forefront of major design and construction trends.
It absolutely is.
What I found really striking in our research was just how much the furniture and interior design sector is reshaping this market.
Oh, definitely.
We're seeing this massive pivot towards, custom-made furniture, modular living spaces, lots of wood-centric decor.
And that's a huge shift in what consumers want, isn't it? As those desires for unique pieces, flexible pieces grow, so does the demand for really high-performance adhesives.
Right.
And it's not just about more glue. It's about glues that, say, cure in seconds, not minutes. They have to keep up with just-in-time production on assembly lines. That makes them truly indispensable for bonding wood components in everything. Cabinets, flooring, doors, panels, you name it. It's the silent workhorse behind modern joinery and assembly.
And it's not just the new stuff, the new furniture. Construction and renovation activities are also huge drivers here, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely huge.
You think about urbanization, all the big infrastructure upgrades, and, that home improvement trend we've all seen just boom over the last few years.
For sure.
Does that mean, a different set of challenges or requirements for the glues compared to furniture making?
Absolutely. Yeah, those trends sustain this continuous, really significant need for woodworking glue, both in structural applications and non-structural ones.
Okay.
So everything from large wooden installations, think staircases, wall panels, and new builds, right down to the trim work and custom shelving someone might be doing in a home renovation project.
Right.
And for construction, you're often looking for grooves that can handle tougher environmental conditions, provide, longer-term structural integrity, different demands.
And what's really remarkable is how the innovation within the glues themselves is transforming the whole landscape. The research we looked at showed some really significant advancements in the actual formulations. We're talking beyond just the traditional PVAs here, right?
Exactly. Yeah, while PVA, polyvinyl acetate, it remains a workhorse for a lot of applications. The real cutting edge is in areas like modified polyurethanes or advanced cross-linking formulations.
Okay.
These innovations aren't just minor tweaks either. We're seeing fundamental shifts in the chemical engineering that significantly boost adaptability.
How so?
Well, modern glues are now formulated to work with a much wider variety of wood types. Hardwoods, softwoods, engineered panels, even tricky veneered surfaces. And what's really fascinating is how these advancements aren't just for the big industrial giants. They're actually sort of democratizing woodworking.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a hobbyist working in their garage can now achieve these incredibly durable professional-grade bonds that, maybe once were only possible with years of skill. And that's thanks to glues that offer superior gap filling and just incredible initial grab.
That sounds fantastic, but like any powerful force, this market isn't without its,
Right.
well, its sticky situations.
Nicely put.
One challenge that really jumped out from our sources was the whole health and safety issue linked to chemical emissions, particularly VOCs.
Yes, that's a big one.
It raises really important questions about indoor air quality, user health. But is there a trade-off? Like, do these new, maybe faster curing glues sometimes compromise on the ultimate bond strength compared to the old traditional options? Or do they introduce new concerns?
That's a critical point. Many solvent-based adhesives, particularly the older traditional ones, they do emit these volatile organic compounds, VOCs.
Right.
And those can negatively impact indoor air quality and, yeah, in some cases, user health. This is especially sensitive for indoor things like furniture, cabinetry, even children's toys.
Makes sense.
So regulatory bodies are definitely tightening controls, and consumers are increasingly demanding safer alternatives.
Good.
The good news is that innovation often aims to tackle these concerns head-on. So while some older formulations might have had those trade-offs, the newer ones are often designed to be both safer and stronger. They're trying to hit both targets.
Okay, that's reassuring. And it's not just about what's in the air, right? What about just plain old durability? Some glues just don't stand up to the elements, do they?
You're absolutely right. Limited durability, especially under extreme environmental conditions like moisture, heat, or humidity, that's another significant hurdle. Some adhesives can degrade. They weaken the bonded wood structures over time, and that obviously restricts their use in, say, outdoor projects or really heavy-duty applications. It pushes both pros and DIYers to seek out more resilient options.
Right.
You can imagine like a small custom furniture shop suddenly being able to offer outdoor pieces with maybe a 25-year warranty. That's possible now because of these new waterproof glues. That's the kind of impact we're seeing.
That really is a huge step forward. But as with so many innovations, there's that inevitable hurdle of cost, especially for the really high performance or the eco-friendly options. How much of a barrier is that, really?
It definitely can be a significant barrier for adoption, particularly for, small businesses or maybe very cost-sensitive buyers. Products that offer those premium features, being waterproof, formaldehyde-free, maybe sustainably manufactured, they often come with a higher price tag.
Yeah.
And while the benefits are pretty clear, that upfront cost can make them less accessible, even though they might offer better long-term value. It's that initial investment.
Okay. Despite those challenges, though, the market is clearly, it's rich with innovation and these forward-looking trends. What's really at the top of that list?
The rising demand for eco-friendly and low VOC adhesives is definitely a leading trend, no question.
Right.
With, increasing environmental awareness, stricter building codes, there's just a strong shift towards water-based adhesives, bio-based adhesives, often made from renewable sources.
Okay.
These products are especially attractive for things like manufacturing children's furniture, toys, decorative pieces. It aligns really well with green procurement practices, too, where we're talking about glues that aren't just effective, but are actively better for the planet and, for human health.
That makes perfect sense. And it's fantastic news, really. And speaking of creativity, we learned that the booming DIY woodworking, the whole hobbyist culture, is actually a huge factor here.
Oh, massive.
It feels like everyone knows someone who's picked up a saw lately. I always just thought of glue as, something sticky that got on my fingers occasionally, like I said. But this deep dive really proves it's so much more complex.
It's absolutely true. Thanks to the sheer abundance of online tutorials, YouTube videos, the rise of community maker spaces, just more people are embracing small-scale woodworking. It's a creative outlet.
Totally.
And this trend is directly spurring demand for easy-to-use adhesives. Glues that offer, strong initial tack, really smooth application, minimal cleanup things that make them perfect for home workshops and garage projects.
Yeah.
It's really about empowering people to create things without all the frustration that might have come with older products.
And it's not just the glue itself changing, but how we actually apply it. Our analysis highlighted some really fascinating technological advancements in, glue application tools and even the packaging.
Yes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these innovations are really boosting productivity and cutting down waste across both the professional side and the DIY segment.
How so? What are we seeing?
Well, things like precision tip nozzles for really fine work, dual chamber cartridges that perfectly mix two-part glues, more ergonomic squeeze bottles that are easier on the hands.
Well,
Manufacturers are just making it significantly easier for users to apply glue accurately with less mess, greater control, which is, at the end of the day, a win for everyone. And it minimizes material waste, too.
so what does this all mean then? We've covered quite a bit of ground here, haven't we? From the dynamic growth drivers in furniture and construction
Right.
to the critical challenges, the VOCs, durability.
The tricky parts.
Yeah, and then to the exciting future, the eco-friendly options, the user-friendly tools. It's just really clear that the woodworking glue market is incredibly dynamic. It's constantly evolving, driven by what consumers want, by innovation, and by some very real challenges.
It really is.
Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are we moving towards a world where things are held together less by screws and nails and maybe more by these really advanced adhesives?
Well, it certainly reinforces the multifaceted nature of this market. Its relevance, it just stretches across such diverse segments. You've got the large-scale construction businesses, complex furniture supply chains,
Right.
all the way down to that booming hobbyist and DIY culture we talked about. The market's evolving fast. There's a huge push towards environmentally friendly solutions, towards application tools that are just easier for everyone to use. It's not just about the glue itself anymore. It's really a reflection of broader societal values around things like sustainability and accessibility.
And so, as we sort of wrap up this deep dive, maybe just consider how such a fundamental, often completely overlooked component like glue profoundly shapes our built environment, how it influences our health, how it even empowers our own creativity.
It's quite something.
It really suggests that even the smallest details, the things we don't normally think about, have these vast implications for innovation, for sustainability. So maybe the next time you look at a piece of furniture or you embark on a home project, just take a moment. Notice those unseen forces at play.
Good advice.
And, your own choices, like maybe opting for furniture made with low VOC adhesives, they can actually influence these market shifts. They can help push the industry towards even greener and safer solutions down the line.